Hey y'all, it's Ashley Bookishrum and I'm back with another Vlogmas video. So it is day number 23. We have made it 23 videos in, and today is not a category video. I know y'all probably like, all right Ashley, we get it, we get the categories, we know, okay, we're done. Yeah, I know. So no more categories. We're done with the categories. Today we are going to be talking about 2020 releases that I still need to read. And this is not all of the 2020 releases that I still need to read. These are just some of the releases that I actually own physically and some that I have checked out from the library. So I kind of got an idea for this. This was actually one that was potentially going to be a patron voted video, but then I decided to incorporate it into this lineup because I have a Christmas song that I really love. And it's not really a happy song, it's kind of a sad song. And it's about this guy who meets his ex in a grocery store, and they talk about how they've moved on with their lives and how their lives have changed, and they end up spending some time together just kind of reminiscing just about their life in general. And it's kind of heartbreaking because it is kind of a look at what could have been. So I was thinking, I was like, what is something that like I should have wound up doing and haven't done? And it's kind of sad that here I am going into a new year and I still haven't done those things. And I was thinking about, wow, okay, what about those 2020 releases that I still haven't read? I kind of get the same feeling that he gets, like, dang, what could have been had I picked up these books? Had they continued their relationship. So we're gonna go ahead and, as always, jump into talking about the song a little bit, and then we'll go through about the 15 books that I should have read in 2020 but still haven't read yet. Okay, so the song that I was talking about is Same Old Lang Syne, which is a song written and sung by Dan Fogelberg, and it was released as a single in 1980. It was also included in his 1981 album, The Innocent Age. Now, what's so interesting about this song is that it takes place on Christmas Eve. So a lot of times this is played like on radio stations for holiday music, and it's one that is considered to be a traditional Christmas song, even though I don't know if it was technically originally composed to be a Christmas song. The song is actually autobiographical, and it is told in first person and tells the story of two long ago romantic interests meeting by chance in a grocery store on Christmas Eve. It is such a heartbreaking song, but such a beautiful song, and I highly recommend that you all listen to it, and I'll make sure that I leave the link down in the description box below. So the first one that I have on this list, I am ashamed to say, is Ghost Squad by Claribel A. Ortega, and this is one that I had been meaning to read because I went to a school library journal conference, I believe in April, and there was a panel discussion about some middle grade titles that had been coming out this year, and this is one of them, which is when I decided that I really wanted to read this book. This is about two kids who accidentally cast this spell, and they bring about some malicious spirits in their hometown in Florida, and they have to work with one of the characters' grandmother in order to get rid of these spirits and save their town. I've heard nothing but great things about Ghost Squad. I don't know why I haven't gotten to it, y'all. I should have gotten to it, but I haven't gotten to it yet. But here it is, checked out from the library, and I definitely need to read it. The next one that I have on this list is Lupe Wong Won't Dance by Donna Barbara Higuera, and this is one that I actually had talked about in one of my new release videos, and I was so excited to read it. I got it from the library, checked it out, I waited until my library purchased it, and then I went and checked it out and decided to read it, and here we are. Haven't read it. And this is actually about a young girl who is both Mexican and Chinese, and she looks up to this baseball player that is also Mexican and Chinese, and she wants to become the first female that is part of the Major League Baseball group, MLB. I'm not a baseball watcher or fan, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but she is looking up to this individual and she has to get A's, I believe, in all of her classes in order to meet him. And she starts running into issues when her gym class is requiring her to dance, and that's where the title comes, Lupe Wong Won't Dance. So she's also known for constantly not combating, but just coming up with very intelligent arguments for things that she wants to change. And this is, I believe, going to be something that she's going to want to change, that she believes shouldn't be a requirement. So I'm still looking forward to this one. I don't know if I'll finish this by the end of the year, but I don't know if I'm going to finish any of these by the end of the year, actually. But these are books that are definitely like high on my radar right now. The next one that I have is one that I actually talked about in my library book haul, and this is Miss Meteor by Taylor K. Mejia and Anna Marie McLemore. And this is about a character by the name of Lita who came to the city, which I believe is called Meteor, on a meteor, because that's how the city was named, and no one knew that she actually came to Earth on that meteor. And now she's running into an issue where she's starting to turn back into stardust. So she finds out that the one way that she may be able to continue to live her life on Earth is by winning the Miss Meteor beauty pageant. And what ends up happening is that she has to work with an ex-best friend by the name of Chicky, and they both know that when it comes to the pageant industry, they're looking for girls that are not plus size, that are not brown, that don't necessarily look like them, but I think that they end up partnering together to attempt to overcome the odds. I've heard great things about this one. I think that it has an interesting premise. I love that it's contemporary but also has some magical elements about it, and I think that this is one that has potential to be one that I'm really going to enjoy. The next one that I have here is Against the Loveless World by Susan Abu Hawa, and this is about a character that is telling the story from her prison cell in solitary confinement, and she is in prison in Israel, and it basically is her chronicling how she ended up in that position. So she wasn't always a political activist. She actually started off like working in a salon and wanting to be married, and she ends up married, and the marriage is not what she thinks it is. She actually ends up becoming an escort for all of these powerful men, and then when the US invades Iraq, her family becomes refugees and she's displaced, and she kind of has to find herself again, and then she becomes immersed in her culture and its literature, and she starts to take these strong political views, and that's where the story goes from there. I am so interested in this, and I knew that this was one that I wanted to read, but irresponsible Ashley did not make time to read this book. But I believe that this is going to be an important book, and I'm really interested in seeing how she develops as a character from someone who just, you know, was working in a salon, was just thinking about marriage, and wasn't really thinking about political activism, and how she then becomes immersed in that and how it ends up leading to her imprisonment. I think that that is going to be an interesting journey. So beautiful cover, one that I should have read this year, like all of these. The next one that I have here is Shuri by Nick Stone. This is part of a group of books that are now being novelized. Like Marvel has worked with a couple of authors that are now taking very specific characters from the Marvel universe and novelizing, or I don't want to say novelizing, or creating novelizations is the right way that I want to say it. Creating novelizations of these characters for people to consume in a prose format as opposed to a comic format. And this one is no different. This focuses on Shuri, who I think everyone knows is the sister of T'Challa, who's the Black Panther. And this is about her journey to kind of make the right moves to save her community, because the elders and the leaders are all in this gridlock of an argument, and they're going through an ecological issue, and she makes the decision to go and figure out exactly what's going on. But then when she does that, she finds that the risk is a lot greater, or the threat is a lot greater than what she anticipated. So the second book to this one actually comes out next year, if I'm not mistaken. So this is one that I definitely should have picked up this year, because I know that I'm gonna want to read the second one, but I just did not, as with all of these, make sufficient time. But I think this is a timely book, especially in the wake of Chadwick Boseman's death, and a lot of conversations about whether they will make Shuri the next Black Panther, especially in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The next one that I have on this list is Cinderella is Dead, and I had intentions on reading this one this month because the Black Prose Club is actually reading this book as a part of their book club, but I did not get to pick it up. Is it still a possibility? I don't know if it's a possibility, but this book looks at, in some ways, the descendants of Cinderella. I think this takes place a couple hundred years after the events of Cinderella, and it focuses on a main character who is now a part of this society where young women are paraded in front of suitors, and the suitors are choosing them based off of their looks, and she doesn't want to be a part of that, especially because those young girls that are not chosen end up disappearing, and she would just rather marry her best friend. She runs away. She ends up in Cinderella's mausoleum, I believe, and she meets a descendant of Cinderella, and they decide to work together to overthrow the king. Now, what's interesting about this one is that I have heard mixed reviews. I think that some people like the concept and the idea of this book, but it seems like a lot of people don't care for the way that it's been executed. Now, I want to see for myself, but to see a Cinderella retelling with a Black main character, and I believe that this does have queer representation as well, is something that does fascinate me. And I believe that Kaylin also has a new book coming out next year, but not related to the series, but just another fantasy book in general. But this is one that I think might be intriguing. The next one that I have on this list is another one that I talked about in my library checked out, or my currently checked out video, and this is I'll Be the One by Leela Lee. And this is one that I wanted to read from the library, and then Chelsea actually got me a copy of it, so sneak peek into my December book haul. And this is about a young girl that wants to be a part of the K-pop world in the form of being a star, and she gets that opportunity. And this explores, from my understanding, the lack of fat representation in industries, not just the K-pop industries. I know it's specifically focusing on K-pop, but I'm sure that that can be applicable to a lot of music industries. So when she enters this competition, she is breaking all of the traditional molds and rules that people are used to seeing, and I believe there's some great friendships that happen in here. I love, like I said in that video, that this is a book that actually has a plus size figure on the cover, which means a lot, because it sucks having a book that is about plus size representation and the person on the cover is not plus size. Like, it just never adds up to me. But I love and appreciate that they actually did this with this cover. The next one has gotten a lot of hype here in the booktube community, and that is The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. And this is about a young biracial boy growing up in London who is struggling not only with coming to terms with his racial, cultural, ethnic background, but also his sexual identity, and he has some struggles in not feeling Greek enough, not feeling Black enough, and then he discovers the world of drag, and I think it is just an exploration of identity and him feeling like this is the place where he belongs. It is told in verse, and I have heard nothing but great things about this one, and it is a debut, but yes, I heard it's great. Next, I have another book that made a big wave in the booktube community, and that's Felix Ever After by Syne Calendar. This one is about a young man by the name of Felix who feels like he just fits into every marginalized group. He's black, he's queer, he's transgender, and he, like everyone else, just wants to get his happily ever after. But then there starts to be these issues where someone is sending him transphobic messages, and I believe at some point attempts to reveal his dead name and post pictures of him prior to his transition. And he decides that he wants to get revenge, and I think that it ends up being a little bit more complex than that and than what he expects. So this is one, of course, that I think pretty much everyone has raved about. I did read a Syne Calendar book this year, but it was their middle grade book, King and the Dragonflies, and I just have been meaning to get my hands on this one. Next on this list, I have Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. This is about a black woman who ends up in a confrontation because she's babysitting the children of a white woman, and she's at the grocery store, and I believe that security guard makes assumptions that the child has been kidnapped because he sees a white child with a black woman and automatically panics. And then I believe that it goes viral to some extent, but this, from what I keep hearing, has a lot to do with performative activism and wanting to help but not really helping because you're not listening. So for me, this one is intriguing, and I haven't gotten to it for a lot of different reasons, but one of those reasons is that this has very polarizing reviews. I think that people usually really enjoy it or they don't like it. And I'm interested in what my view is going to be, because I think maybe reading this one as a black person, it may be something that I already know. So it may be one of those books where you read it and you're like, okay, like I know this already, I know this. So it makes you question like who's the intended audience and whether you would get much enjoyment out of this, especially if this is supposed to be a moment of teaching and it's like you already have this information. So I'm not sure. I'm just making assumptions here based off of reviews and conversations that I've seen surrounding this book. So I haven't read it yet, but I do need to read it. The next one that I have here is the Hana Wars, and this was a book that I was super excited to read, y'all. Like, I was super excited to read the Hana Wars, and I never got to it, but I really wanted to read this one. And it is about two young girls who are childhood friends, but of course I believe that this is surrounding a sapphic romance, and they have a school competition where they decide that they want to prove that they are the best henna artists, henna tattoo artists, and they get into this competition with each other, but they don't exactly fall out because they have feelings for each other, and one is going to have to make the decision on whether she wants to remain in the closet and not come out, or kind of disregard that and follow her heart. I know that this is beautiful. There are a lot of people who I trust who have reviewed this book, who have talked endlessly about how beautiful, how poetic, and just how important and meaningful this book is. And I'm super disappointed in myself for this one. I think for the other ones, like, I wish I would have gotten to them, but because this is probably one of my anticipated reads that I was super looking forward to as soon as I found out about it, I am super disappointed that I did not get to it this year. And I just know that this is one that, like, I'm going to love. I know that I'm gonna love it. I just have not read it yet. The next book that I have on here is one that I actually just recently got, but had my eyes on and checked out from the library. But I got this in my unplugged book box, and it is a Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow by Laura Taylor Namey. And this is about a young girl who actually had all these plans after she graduated, but then her parents kind of intervened because she's struggling with mental health issues, and they sent her to England to relax, and she thinks that it's going to be horrible and boring, and then she meets this guy, and then that's when she realizes that her plans may end up changing. I think that this one is going to be probably a cute YA contemporary romance. I love the cover. I think it's beautiful, and I was anxiously waiting for my library to order a copy of this one and for it to come in, because all that stuff has just really honestly just been super delayed because of COVID, which is completely understandable. But I was so excited when it finally came in, and then I found out that I actually was going to be able to get a physical copy of it myself, so that's even better. So this is one that I'm looking forward to reading in 2021. The next one that I have on this list is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. Y'all knew an N.K. Jemisin book was gonna make this list, okay? Well, this one is tricky because I actually did start this book. I got a quarter of the way through this book. I was listening to it on audio, but some parts I was having difficulty following along with, so I was like, okay, maybe I just need to kind of like, you know, have a physical copy and follow along. So now I have the physical copy and I still have not picked it up, but from what I did read, I was enjoying it. It is the personification of a city, to be quite honest with you. I think that's the best way to put it. You have individuals who are normal human beings, but then they wake up and they actually take on the characteristics and persona of the 5 boroughs. And I think that there is an evil entity that is actually working against them. And I know that this is going to be a good one because I've already read a quarter of it and I enjoyed it. But what I do want to do, I think, before going back and actually reading this one, is I want to read the short story. So I have How Long Till Black Future Month, and there's a short story in this book that comes before this book. So I actually think that I also bought the Kindle, the ebook of the short story at one point too. So I need to read a short story and then pick this one up. Will I read an N.K. Jemisin book before 2020 ends? That is a question that we all must answer, because Terrell has already told me 100 times that I need to read the 5th season. So I don't know. I don't know. And the last one that I have on this list is A Promised Land by Barack Obama. So this just came out. I portioned money aside, sneak peek into my December book haul to get this book. Okay, I was excited when I found out that he was coming out with his own memoir, but I think that this is going to have some interesting political government aspects in it that are going to be important. This is a tome. This book is over 700 pages. The pages are like Bible thin, and this is the first of 2 books. So I don't know when we're getting the second edition to this book, but I do have the audio, which he does read, which I just love his voice. I think he's just a great speaker in general. So I'm going to listen to this and annotate it, and I was hoping that maybe by some stroke of luck I was going to be able to get through this by the end of the year, even though it just came out. But it's not going to happen. It's too big. It's too big. It's going to take me too long. And yeah. Alright y'all, so that is it. Those are some 2020 releases that I still need to read. Let me know in the comments below what are some 2020 releases that you did not get to that you still need to read. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button, hit the bell for notification. If you're looking for ways to support my channel, the links will be down in the description box. Looking for ways to follow me on social media, those will be down in the description box as well. And I'll be back with another video tomorrow, Christmas Eve, y'all. We're almost at the finish line.